Hi, I'm Jepper, and welcome to my language learning journey. So, I decided to make this channel to kind of start documenting things. A little bit about me: I have been studying Chinese for 2.5 years. I've been studying Japanese for about 6 months. I've been studying Spanish for on and off for 15 years, maybe a total of like 7 years of language study. I took 5 years in high school, I took 1 year in college, and then I've done Duolingo on and off and stuff for a while, and then I've recently started again as well. So when it comes to Spanish, I was not very good. I got C's in high school in every class, which is funny because I have a PhD in physics now, so it's like I'm not exactly a bad student. Well, maybe, maybe a little. Yeah, I took it in class. I didn't understand it. I couldn't speak anything. I couldn't communicate to people. I knew I had a pretty decent vocabulary list, but it wasn't at my beck and call. Like if I was reading it, I could read Spanish fairly well and understand what was going on, but I never really picked it up. And I think it's the same story with a lot of people. And when I started studying Chinese, I started out the conventional path. You start with Duolingo, you study things like that. But I started doing other things at the same time too. I started listening to podcasts when I was walking to class in the grad school, and I would listen to these podcasts at the same time as walking to class. I just said that, and then I would also shadow speak. And one thing I noticed is that when you shadow speak, which is trying to repeat everything you hear right as you hear it, someone says something in Chinese, and then I would try and repeat right after. At first, my words were very jumbled. I could not really pronounce the words that well. Not only that, but that's also an indication of what you actually hear. I mean, how well you hear it is how well you're able to say it. And so I think shadow speaking is a great practicing tool as well as a great quizzing tool in some ways to really see how well you understand the material and also to help you learn the material. Because if you're just listening to something, you hear something off in the distance, you're watching a show or whatever, and even if you're trying really hard to listen, your mind wanders. You zone in and out. But when you're shadow speaking, you force yourself to pay attention because you're trying to actively repeat after them. So I think it's one way to force that, which is why I think it's a really effective method. And so I'm going to start documenting my language progress. I'm going to upload a video myself speaking in Chinese, no script, just trying to say what I naturally can say. I'll do the same thing for Spanish, and I'll do the same thing for Japanese. And I feel like my Chinese has come a long way in these 2.5 years. I think I've done really well with it. And usually when I meet Chinese people, they're very happy with my progress as well. They think that I've been studying for 5 years instead of 2.5, which I take as a compliment. But obviously I'm still a beginner. There's still a lot of words I don't know. My pronunciation's still not great. But I'll document it. I'll start documenting it and see what happens. I have been also basically you could say that I've been using the method of comprehensible input, more or less. And I think this method is very effective. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there explaining it. I won't go into great detail at this point in time. I do think it's the best way to learn a language, and so that's what I've been doing to really buffer up my Chinese. And I started doing it a couple months ago to Spanish, and eventually I picked up Japanese as well. And as of this week, I am going to start learning Korean. Now, why would I do that? Why would I start learning Korean now of all times when I'm still a beginner in Japanese and Spanish? The reason's simple. I graduated. I defended my PhD. I am now a doctor. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You're too kind. You're too kind. So I'm a doctor now. I defended my PhD, and I got a new job. And one of the things about my new job is that it involves a lot of international travel. Specifically, the company works closely with companies in Japan, China, Singapore, Taiwan, and Korea. And that was one of the reasons I was interested in the job. I'd like to travel to these places. And I got put into the group. Oh, sorry, before that, I think part of the reason that I got hired at this job is because of my abilities with Chinese and even a little bit of Japanese as well. And so because I have these abilities, they put me in the group that works primarily with Korea. Can't make this stuff up. Okay, fine. No problem. I'll start learning Korean then. It's possible that from the moment of posting this video, or I should say recording this video, I could go to Korea in as soon as 6 months. I don't really have any background with Korean at all. I have one Korean friend, very close friend of mine. We spoke often a little bit about Korea and stuff, but I can't really exactly say I'm an expert on Korea. I didn't watch any many K-dramas. I watch two. I don't really listen to K-pop. I don't really know anything about their culture. I honestly don't know much about Korean or Korea. And so I'm really starting as a complete beginner. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the method that I'm going to use to study Korean going forward. And then maybe every week, maybe every other week or so, I'm going to try and upload a video of my progress and really closely track along myself as a complete beginner in this language and see how well I can speak Korean in 6 months whenever I go, which would be the minimum time I would go. It might be actually be longer, up to a year later. We'll see. We'll see. So what I'm going to do is tonight I'm going to start watching a Korean TV show. I decided to pick out the one called Squid Game. It's a popular show. I kind of know a little bit about it because I've seen some references here and there. To be honest, this show isn't like particularly interesting to me, but whatever. It's popular, so it must be good. I'll watch any genre as long as it's good. And about every 20 minutes or so, I'm probably going to pause. And I'm sorry, before that, I'm going to focus really quickly, really earnestly on shadow speaking as I'm watching to ensure that I'm really listening. Because my goal in watching this show is to get a feel for the flow of the language. It's not really to pick up words or anything like that, and I don't know anything yet. I don't know a single word in Korean. But I want to understand how the language flows. I want to get a feel for when they stop, when they pause. Are there constant words that they use at the end of sentences? You know, are there constant words they repeat over and over again? Maybe pick up those things a little bit. Yeah, just kind of understand what their sequence is like. And so every maybe 20 minutes or so, I'm going to try to find like a short video, like under 5 minutes long, of beginner Korean that talks about common words, common phrases, basic sentence structure. Again, I don't really believe in studying grammar, but I mean, a little bit here and there can help. Especially as a complete beginner, just to have a somewhat idea of how they structure sentences. But I don't think it's totally necessary. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that tonight. I'm going to do that actually for a good while. And here and there, I'm going to also try to look up lists of vocabulary words in English, or Roman characters, I should say. I'm not going to learn the writing alphabet for maybe 1 to 2 months. The reason for that is because every time you read, you pronounce that character inside your head. And what if you do that a lot, you do a lot of reading, especially at the beginning, you don't really know how it sounds. Like, you're going to mispronounce it incorrectly. So, I should say, you're going to mispronounce it inside your head every time you read, especially in the beginning. And so what I want to do is get a really decent grasp of how the language sounds before I bother studying it, before I bother learning how to read and start mispronouncing things. I think this will help me with my Korean accent whenever I actually start speaking, interacting with people, make me sound a little bit more native. You know, I'm not trying to actively sound like native per se. I'm not trying to be an artist in that way, but I do want to be understood. I want to sound clear, even if I have a small amount of American accent, which is unavoidable. That's fine. I just want to be understood. I don't want to speak in a very bad accent where no one can understand me. It doesn't matter if you know all the words in the language. If you can't be understood, then like, what's the point? So yeah, that's my reason for not learning the writing system, which is going to make things a little bit more difficult in some ways, because I think reading is probably the best way to pick up vocabulary and even understand intuitively sentence structure. But at the end of the day, you got to listen. That's the primary focus. You got to listen. You got to be able to understand what's going on with the rhythm and flow of the language to be able to speak it. I mean, you can speak without reading. You can also read without speaking, but that's a much worse way of communication. So yeah, that's it. This is a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I'm actually really tired. It's the end of a really long week, my first week of this new job, which I'm loving, by the way. So please pardon all the times I misspoke. I think all of my videos in the future are going to be like this. Well, maybe I'll get something to hold the phone rather than hold it in my hand and shift around. Maybe I'll get better lighting. Maybe I will get a better background. But I'm going to try to do it uninterrupted, first takes, keep the mistakes in there because that's part of the learning process. I'm going to try to post a weekly video of myself speaking whatever Korean I know and see what happens. And I'm also at some point going to post updates for my Spanish, Japanese, and Chinese as well. A little bit less frequently, though, maybe once a month or so. But I'll try to do that all within the next 2 weeks. Get it started, get the ball rolling. Yeah, thank you for watching, and welcome to my new channel of Jepper Learns Languages. Good night.